Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today, how to hit down on a golf ball. We're talking a club with loft, no tee under the ball, basically an iron shot. How to do it, what not to do to try to hit down on it, and why it's important. So hitting down on the ball is not the ultimate goal. Hitting the ball solidly, compressing the ball, that's the ultimate goal. But when you do that with an iron, at least one with loft, you will be hitting down on it as well. So let's have a look at several of the features that create the proper downward hit, a couple of things you don't want to do trying to hit down on it. Then towards the second half of the video, we'll work on how to get the feeling into your swing. Number one, solid contact. This is a pitching wedge. That black dot there is about where the sweet spot would be. Backward shaft lean, not a solid hit. You need some forward shaft lean to get the sweet spot against the ball. Next feature is what is commonly termed line of compression. Picture a baseball player. You can hit a baseball like that. That is not a powerful way to compress a ball. That is. So you need angle between the trail arm and the bat, racket, club, more in line with the lead arm. And again, that is going to produce a little bit of this downward hit. But most importantly, as I said earlier, it's compressing the ball well. That's what we're looking for. Only about 4 to 7 degrees of downward hit, by the way, with a great player, give or take. That's about the stroke of a second hand on the clock. Let's look slow motion on TV for just a moment. Define it just a hair more, then we'll look at what not to do to hit down on it, and then we'll work on the feel. Okay, LPGA player coming in, looks like some sort of a mid-iron. You can see the grip end of the club well past the ball before contact, and that again is going to allow for ball contact, solid ball contact, and divot after contact. Now, if you look at this position, let's say here, there is so much shaft lean there, obviously an expert player, that would be a tremendous amount of downward hit, plenty, and as we're going to see, you need to mitigate that a little bit. Another thing we'll look at a bit later in the video, you'll notice when you have that much forward shaft lean, it tends to aim the face out this way, so we're going to discuss how to square that up. But this gives you the solid hit. This allows you to hit the ball and then the turf and really compress that ball. Okay, what not to do hitting down. In other words, you have to balance the books. We already have plenty of downward hit, or at least hopefully we do with a lot of shaft lean. You don't need to be hitting down by being steep on it as well. And this is what happens to people. They get the wrong kind of downward hit. I'll show you a couple more in just a moment. And when they're hitting too much down here, in order to have any kind of a proper impact, they have to take some of that out. So we don't want to be steep. This isn't a lesson about swing plane, but believe me, when that club is coming in more from the side of your body, as they call it, shallow, it's much more of a sweeping hit than when it's in front of you. Let's look at those other two in slow motion. So Tiger Woods there in his younger heydays, always fun to watch. Let's get the club about there and let's draw a line straight out from about where I would deem the grip end of the club to be. And you'll notice through impact, those hands are rising a little bit. You see them going up? And again, that gets rid of some of this extensive shaft lean that we love, but would really drive the club into the ground if he didn't have some relief that way. And the reason primarily that his hands are arcing up, if you look at his belt buckle, it's about there, his left knee's maybe there. His hips are pushing towards the target and pushing underneath him, which causes the belt buckle to rise, the knees straightening up a little bit, and all of that movement as the hips move forward and up, I'm not saying his head moves up, but as his hips move forward and up, is helping those hands to arc away from the ground. Again, reducing what might be an excessive downward hit. If you like these videos, I hope you'll give a like or share them or something. Also, scratchgolfacademy.com. There's a link below this video in the description box. Free 14-day trial, no credit cards, no gimmicks. Love to have you go there and browse the library. Okay, let's look at it. Let's do a preset. That's a great way to work on impact. I'm going to take my setup. I have an 8-iron. I think that's a pretty good choice. Head fairly steady, weight and hips forward. They're also turned a little bit. Now, when you're steady here and this moves forward, it creates some of that more upward hit that we were looking for to reduce the effect of the shaft lean. Hands are going to be forward, so I've got that preset. Now, here's a couple of things you've got to watch out for. First off, don't take too big a backswing. Don't ruin that and get back here. I'm going to feel like I make just a little pivot of my trunk. Let me try one here. That's the feeling right there. Secondly, we're trying to create some snap down there, and it's the kind of snap that knocks loft off the club. We neither want to drag this thing through. I don't want to roll my right arm and scoop the club that way to get it square. I want to feel a good sharp crack down of the wrist closing the face, because when you start to get shaft lean, if you haven't had this before, this kind of a look, it predisposes that face to look this way. You've got to pop it down with a little bit of authority. Let's try one here. There's our preset. And there it is. I can feel there's enough up in here to knock out too much downward hit there. Let me show you that in slow motion, a couple of checkpoints for your mini finish. Then we'll conclude with some thoughts from here. So there's the preset. Make the backswing without shifting the weight back to the back foot, and in we come. You can see the grip end of the club past the ball, the face tilting down. There's the downward hit. But notice also the glove, if anything, is rising in total through the ball. And with the hips forward, the belt buckle's fairly tall. And when you finish on these little shots, you should feel a tall left side, your forearms nice and structured, and the club not flipped up against you, nice and firm there. Okay, I've been a golf instructor for 40 years nearly. People, and I've talked to probably tens of thousands, they are so self-defeating. They think this thing is so difficult and beyond their reach. Hey, listen, I'm not a tour pro. You're probably not going to be either, especially if you're watching this video, but you can certainly create shaft lean. You can do these things. If you were trying to run a 9-second 100 meters, forget it. This isn't that difficult though, so don't sell yourself short. Okay, 2 things are going to help you hit down, or 2 things are adding to the downward hit. Shaft lean, leaning forward and tilting the face, snapping it that way. That gives you your down. 3 things that are going to reduce the excessive downward hit: shallow plane, and belt buckle and handle rising just a little bit through the ball. Do lots of these little ones, big ones, little ones. Play around with it and have some fun. You can do this thing. Let's see if I can pull it off here under pressure as such here. Yeah, it was a reasonably crisp downward hit. It'll really help your iron game if you'll play with this stuff.